Buenos Dias Gunners Collective. Back at it, you already know. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. It's about to get real in here. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Like a mother. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Ba-ya. 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 Oh, little Dave. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Right? As you can tell by that thumbnail right there in the Menudo style in direct fashion, the rise, the fall, the in-between. Little Dave, the out bad, former national president of the Mongols Motorcycle Club. First and foremost, I say like, subscribe, hit the all button. It's right there, a little bell, it's notifications, and you'll be abreasted of all and every piece of content I drop right here on YouTube. The videos are banging. Just ask around. God, are they banging? Who cares what you say? They're banging. Right now, let's talk about Little Dave, okay? I actually had a couple conversations with Little Dave before, and that's facts. And I'm going to say I was real skeptical in those conversations, but we're going to get to that here in a minute. Now, the rise and fall of Little Dave, it's a story that's been told a lot here on YouTube. But here are some details that people won't tell you. Here are some things that people lack in their context. Here's some bullshit, right? This is real. No added preservatives. Now, Little Dave, you know, rose through prominence in the 90s. You know, I remember seeing him on YouTube at some birthday bash. I remember seeing him and just hearing about him through several bikers that I function and fuck with, right? I got a lot of friends from a lot of places, a lot of people that I deal with, I have willings and dealings with, or that I just associate myself with. A lot of good camaradas, a lot of good homeboys. And in a direct fashion, in a Menudo style, one time, you know, I was chopping it up with the homeboy from the Mongols, and we started to discuss Little Dave. And he only gave him high praise and talked about how intelligent this guy was, how shrewd and cunning he was, and at the same time, how he was trying to get the Mongols Motorcycle Club on the right track, since Doc Cavazos, the outbad former president, had kind of destroyed, you know, the motorcycle club, had kind of gave it a bad name. Now, one thing I'll say about 1%er motorcycle clubs is although they're classified as an outlaw club, a biker club, and some of them do call themselves outlaws, one thing I'll say is for sure is they do a lot for the community. They do a lot of good. People focus on the negative energy. They always focus on the bad. They always focus on what they think in the movies that they see. Sabes que? Rubbing on the runway, headed for the highway. A whole bunch of woods, brother, doing their thing. But the one thing that stood out to me most definitely about the Mongols was that they were mainly focused on the outreach of the community. They were mainly focused on the prosperity of their club, the propensity to go get it. That's what they did. That's what they do. You know, they're a 9-to-5er club. A lot of them have real jobs out there in the real society and real community. A lot of them do great for the community. They're not as bad as people think. People look at things one way because that's what they're told and that's what they're indoctrinated with. That's how they're educated to think that just because they're big old bikers that might need a shower at the same time, they're not all that bad. And I'm here to tell you first and foremost, that's a fact. Now, the thing about the Mongols that jumps at me the most is that they're predominantly Mexicano, Chicano, of a Latin descent, right? And there's been a lot of groups that have had different races, different ethnicities involved in it. Hells Angels did have some Mexicans. Of course, the Outlaws were predominantly white. You have Chingalings in New York. You have the Bandidos, which were comprised of a lot of Mexicans as well. Several different groups. But one thing I like for sure about the Mongols is they were coming out of the LA area. They were coming out of the Bay Area, San Jose. There's so many of them. They have so many chapters, and most of the members are of a Latino descent. Now, they do have a little bit of everything, and I like that. I like the mixture. I like the way they rock. Now, Little Dave rose to prominence as a Chicano from the LA area. Okay, and he slid in perfectly. As soon as Doc Cavazos and all his rhetoric went out the window and everyone found out that him and his son were snitching, or were they? One never knows, does one. I know that Doc Cavazos actually caught a federal case, and after him catching his federal case, you know, Little Dave got voted in and slid in as the national president. Now, what is the national president for a motorcycle club? He is someone that not only runs his chapter in his state, but all the other states and basically worldwide. He runs the show. He's the shot caller. He's the metal. He's the man. Now, of course, in a group like that, a motorcycle club, there is no guy that has supreme power that's going to say you do this and that's just the way it is. But his vote was definitely heard and definitely felt. His gavel definitely pounded loud, and that was real. You know, for the most part, him being a very highly intelligent individual, people took notice of that and they praised him. I had never, up until the tape that I'm about to play, did I ever hear anything bad about Little Dave. It was always all good. Now, if you refer back to when the Mongols got into it with the Hells Angels, I think it was in Laughlin, Nevada, at the casino, you know, if you really pinpoint on it, there were several people that said Little Dave was hiding behind people and that he was running, and that Doc Cavazos was on frontline status right there in the forefront, ready to handle business for his club. Now, I never tripped on it because I know how haters get. Haters would talk a whole lot of masa, they'll talk a whole lot of shit, and they'll woof and direct that woofing right towards a single person. It seems like whoever's the head of the snake or whoever's the highest in the mountain will always get the most ridicule and hate. That's just the way it is. It's the way it is for me here on YouTube. So I could understand Little Dave's plight because that's how it was for him. But after further investigation and really going upon looking at them tapes that people put out, I could see Little Dave was running. He was hiding. He was falling. He was yelling. He was cussing. He was bussing. He didn't involve himself in that melee. He definitely was standing behind some monstros, some monsters. He was trying to wiggle the fuck up out the way. Now, that's the way the tape looks. There's different angles, and if you want to refer back to the tape, there's plenty of them on YouTube. Go to one of the biker channels. Let's get us some big old wood right there. Look at brother. He's running, brother. Right? Yeah, he did run a little bit. But again, when you're in a high position, you're protected by, you usually have buffers in between you. You know, you have a crew that surrounds you so that way you cannot be touched because you're to be utilized for the club, the gang, the group, or whatever you're involved in. You're more necessary and more, you know, you're more accessible to people, you know, if you're whole. If you're all fucked up, if they get at you, then hey, you can't be utilized. You're no good no more. You know what I mean? You're broken down. Let's get that chueco. You're walking like that. And they definitely didn't want Little Dave like that. But he did not take the initiative like you should to jump in the guerra, to jump in the war. He definitely backtracked and then had a lot to say about Doc Cavazos. When I looked at it from my own perspective and the way I looked through these four eyes, I seen Doc on the forefront. Like I said, I seen Little Dave doing the back pedal. He was backstroking. He was doing the Michael Phelps, right? And that's just what it is. Okay, that was my own perspective on the situation. Other than that, I had only heard great and good things about this guy. You know, he definitely was in a struggle. He was in a fight for his club. Now, along the way, what happened was the feds started to look at his club. They started to want to involve him in RICOs. They wanted to involve the Mongols. And a lot of the he said, she said, that she said, that he said. Okay, and this is what happens. When you have a group as prominent and as big and growing fast like the Mongols were, because they tripled in size under the leadership of Little Dave, he started to recruit a lot of people. Now, this is where it got bad. When you're recruiting too much people and you're not vetting them like you should, what happens is you get a lot of bad apples in the bunch. What happens is you get a lot of weak links, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. So when you start to do that and you think numbers equal power and you think power equals motivation, you're totally wrong. As a Norteño functioning for many, many years, activated, right? No longer am I in the mix. But at them times doing that, I understood that one bad apple could spoil the whole damn bunch. Orale, Donny Osmond, I understood that you're only as strong as your weakest link. And a lot of my other camaradas and homeboys understood that too. So we were very structured and militant in our ways of thinking. Hey, if we don't need you, we don't want you. If you got any flaws, if you're willing to walk with your shirt on when you're on the yarda because the Southsiders told you to, I said, we don't need you, right? Take that fucker off, let that 14 bang and express yourself like NWA. Let it be known, right? But of course, a lot of individuals are not cut from the same cloth. Their DNA is not like that. They're not made up of a soldado. They don't have that warrior spirit. They're just trying to kick it, eh? And the ones that are trying to kick it, bam, kick them out. That's just real talk. Now, with Little Dave, he started to recruit a lot of individuals. And it seemed like a lot of the people he started to recruit were ex-Southsiders, people that were disgruntled with the way that was working out, ex-gang members or even current gang members. And that right there can rock the boat. When you're pulling soldados from a different group, when you're pulling soldados from a different pecking order, when you're pulling the people that go one way and now you're telling them to go another way, you're going to rock the boat and people are going to feel some type of way. Of course, he got a lot of backlash for it. A lot of people started to look at the Mongol Motorcycle Club as a safe haven for dropouts or non-actives or people that were pushed out of their gang or people that decided to defect for one reason or another. And that wasn't a good look. Under the tutelage and leadership of Little Dave, right? that was definitely something that was weighing heavy on his shoulders. You know, you want numbers, you want power, you want to be able to pull up and your presence felt, especially when you have an enemigo, someone of the size of the group and the notoriety and prominence of a group like the Hells Angels. You definitely have to have soldados for war. So I can understand his ways of thinking in the leadership role is to recruit more people and at the same time try to maintain an ambience of peacefulness within the community. That's one thing the Mongols always did do righteously, is they had a lot of support. They had a lot of support groups. They had a lot of people that were basically behind them and what they were doing, when at the same time, man, because other individuals were involved in criminal activity and doing their own thing, it reflected bad on the club. Now, as the leader, you're responsible for all that. So that put everything on little Dave's plate. You understand? He had to be the vocal leader. He had to be on the forefront. His name was right on top of them indictments, because when you become in a leadership role, everything that group is slandered for, everything that they think that they did, you're the head of the snake. You're the one that it reflects bad upon. So that means everything that you do as an individual reflects upon the club as a whole. Now, the Mongols are very highly respected. One of the most respected motorcycle clubs in the world. Not the country, not the city, definitely not the town, but the world. And they rose through sheer grit, through fight, through prominence, through devastation. A lot of the things that they did or they had to do, they had to lay demos down. They said that's just part of a gang, that's part of a group, or part of a club. When you go to certain places, you have to hold your head up high and let everyone know that you're there. Now, their patch, when they walk into a spot, when they walk into a club, holds a lot of respect. They're a very respected group. Their colors are very well respected. And because they have fought tooth and nail and held their ground against one of the most dominating clubs in the world, the Hells Angels, they gained and garnered that respect. In fact, in a lot of these instances, they put it down. Demos were laid everywhere. Everybody knows about the war between the Hells Angels and the Mongols, and they definitely did it. And of course, the vocal leader, the man that was supposed to be the face of the Mongols, was Little Dave. Now, in every group and organization, when you go mainstream, when you're out there and the news media know who you are, they're going to exploit you. They're going to utilize you, just like they did with John Gotti and the Italian Mafia. He started to become a face recognizable. You know, back in the days, most of these group organizations, these gangs, these clubs or whatever, you never knew who the leader was. You might have heard about him, but you didn't really get to visualize or see who he was. You know, it was like that. It was kind of the mystery of the unknown. We heard about it, but we never seen it. But these leaders like John Gotti, Little Dave, Doc Cavazos, they started to become mainstream. They started to want their face be known. They craved the recognition. They loved the recognition. And so many times Little Dave did these interviews with reporters, or he put himself on the forefront. And that right there with my antennas was the first indication and indicators that something wasn't right with this individual. He loved the limelight. He craved it as well as his wife did. They decided that if for no other reason, they were going to be the faces in the plateau of the Mongols Motorcycle Club, and they were going to let it be known that they were holding position. When I say they, I mean him as well as his old lady, because his old lady was definitely pulling his fucking strings behind the curtains. And that's just the way it was. Now, here's a clip that I'm going to play for you. I want you to listen to the sound. This is when it all started to falter and go downhill for Little Dave. Trip out on this.
Okay, care, David, because I don't want to be a part. I don't want to be a part of that world anymore, David. Are you willing?
Go with them, but we can't do without them. Like, we need to fucking do it against the strategy.
Okay.
You're making it sooner than later, and I can't do it right now because we need to just get our fucking shit right.
David, okay, really quick.
You told me already, but I have 1 year. 1 year. He's retiring. After 1 year, he's done. And he can't protect me. He told me. So we have to have an exit strategy. He told me. I don't know if he told you that.
David, okay.
1 year to get
Okay, so with that said,
I can't protect you anymore, Annie.
okay.
Now you heard it there yourself. We need an exit strategy. I can't help it. No. That author was doing way too much. And he was, hey, that Bud Light will do that to you. Don't do it. I said, don't do it. Anyways, his wife definitely busted him out. And I remember the day that this happened. And let me give you a little backstory, because this was the day I would have a conversation with one Little Dave. Now, hearing about him throughout the years and seeing his face, And knowing that the Mongols motorcycle club is definitely so well respected, I respected the individual. When I heard this, when I woke up in the morning to listen to this actual clip, it blew my mind. I didn't know what I was listening to. So let me give you a little backstory. I'm sitting in Houston, Texas. I'm in Rojo's backyard. I'm chilling. I got up. It's early in the morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock. I need to take a little sippy sip of coffee, smoke a frajo, do my thing. The vato's still snoring. And I was spending a little time. I was on a week vacation. I was spending about a week at his pad, just chilling, sleeping on the couch. That motherfucking couch is comfortable. I'm going to tell you right now, Ro, to what degree of couch you got going on, I can't call it, brother. But at the same time, that motherfucker, one of the best couches I ever slept on. Anyway, so I go to the backyard. I'm going to smoke me a little frajo on the porch and do my thing when I get a phone call from one of my homeboys from Sacra. Now, this is one of my subscribers and good homeboys, and he usually gives me game and lets me know what's hot, what's trending, what's up, what's out, what's on, right? He's definitely lit at all times, and a lot of the material he gives me is absolutely usable and real. So he calls me 6 in the morning. Hey, did you hear what happened last night? Nah, what happened? You didn't hear? Bitch, I said I didn't hear, Holmes. You know what I mean? Stop it, right? Okay, because I'm getting frustrated at this point, right? Yes, I did call him a bitch, right? Don't get mad at me. Anyways, so I was like, what's going on, right? He's kind of a knack. He's like, look, bro. Look, brother. White dude, right? You don't understand. Little Dave is snitching. He's telling, right? I said, well, how do I know? How can I tell? And he sends me the clipping that his wife, supposedly I recorded Little Dave's wife, of him talking about an exit strategy, working with the feds, basically. And people could see it and hear it for what it was. Now, it exploded on the internet. It went crazy. It started to trend. Everyone started to put it out. And I remember at that particular point in time, my baby's mom had just shut my channel down, so I was channelless in Seattle. I didn't know what the fuck I was going to do. The struggle was definitely real, right? So I tell my boy Rojo when he wakes up, I'm like, hey, bro, trip out. This is what's going on. He's like, I don't really touch on biker situations. It really don't do numbers. Ain't going to do nothing for me. I said, no, you don't understand. Because see, the way the biker shit works, right? In the biker world, this is the hottest thing. He didn't know who Little Dave was. Facts, right? So after further discussion with Flaco from a convict's perspective, Rojo decides, him and Flaco, hey, maybe they should touch on it. Maybe they should do something on it. So they elaborate and do a great spill on it. Absolutely. A collaboration. At that time, they worked together. And it was a great spill. They came from a different perspective, a different point, a pinpoint of maybe Little Dave was being railroaded. Maybe he wasn't bad. Maybe his old lady decided to give this tape to the club to make him look bad. Maybe there was a hidden agenda there, and maybe politics was trying to push him up out the way. That's usually what happens. When you're in a leadership role and you're really doing the things, people are going to try to push you the fuck up out the way, right? So they can come up. But it just sounded real skeptical to me. You just heard it. Sounded real. The fakery, the bakery was real, right? So, I definitely was on the sidelines because I, myself, didn't have a horse in the race, didn't even have a channel, right? So we started to reach out to people and people started to reach out to us and we became in contact with Little Dave. Little Dave was searching for a platform on YouTube or social media to express what had happened. Basically, he was trying to do damage control. This was hurting his placement within his group. He didn't know which way to turn or who to run to. Who can I run to? He was on his escape shit and he was definitely tapped in, trying to get on a platform, definitely meant to express his feelings. We did talk to him. I had a conversation with him. He decided that if for no other reason, he would do an interview, a Zoom meeting with us, right? Me being in the background. And we did decide to make it happen that day. Now, after further conversation, I understood one thing, and one thing was for sure. This man never, and I repeat, never did he tell me once that he was innocent or he wasn't telling or that he wasn't working with the feds, that it wasn't a confidential informant or a snitch. He never said this. He just wanted to do damage control. How can I clean it up? How can I make it look good on social media so people ain't tripping? His wife chimed in with the same exact thing. They definitely wanted to know how to improve the light that was being shed on him, right? So we definitely were going to provide a platform and ask the right questions. He was given a list of the questions we were going to ask. And we asked him if we could record it as well as his wife did ask if she could record it on the sidelines. Definitely, just so nothing was edited and misconstrued and changed up. And that's exactly how it went down. Now, midway through the Zoom meeting that we were having with this individual, something came up on his end and he had to cease and desist and get away from the conversation just based on his homeboys had whispered something in his ear and he disappeared. Now, we did have another conversation to which he explained to me, Gunner, I'm in fear of my life. I work with certain individuals or I'm around or associate with certain individuals that won't take light for me having interaction with people from up north. I said, I understand that. I understand your situation, don't want to put your family in jeopardy, but look, at the same time, in the meantime, in between time, if you want to express this story, if you want to get it out there, here's a few different social media platforms to do it on. Ultimately, he did end up going to American Cholo and expressing his feelings. And to that, I commend Gil for that interview. Now, at the end of the day, you know, whatever his choices were his choices. As a man, he gave me his word that he would not be going to any other social media platforms on YouTube to do it, that he was going to go the Instagram and the TikTok route. But obviously, his TikTok pants were too tight. So ultimately, he ended up on American Cholo. It is what it is. Now, we move on for that, and I digress. But one thing I'll say for sure, and this is facts, gente, was it started to take on a life of its own. A lot of people weren't believing what he was saying. The fucking tape sounds bad. You heard it, right? And me being non-objective and me being the type of person that'll sit back and give people their due process and their just due, there was no way around it. I understood just having a real civil conversation in real life with little Dave and his wife, that there was more there than meets the eye. Transformer shit, right? Decepticon in a real way. Personal conversation. So now, I was of the understanding I thought he told. You know, I'm just going to be real with you from my perspective, from my angle, the way I looked at it. Devonta was dirty as dirty can be. He was playing in the mud. Now, what came to pass was that he actually was real cool with the Fed, that they had a lot of respect for each other. And his story is that they had a lot of respect for each other and they met each other in certain places to discuss what was going on with his club. At this time, they were trying to pull the club's patches. The federal government was really on the club's head, and he was trying to fight the good fight. So this guy, out of respect, was working with him, not necessarily in a snitching capacity, but as a mutual acquaintance, I guess. I don't know. I've never sat down with the Fed and fucking drank coffee at Starbucks and ate Star Crunch, right? I just don't understand that, but that was his story, and we let him tell it as the world went on. Now, of course, the club felt a certain way, and whatever club business is club business, however they felt, I know that publicly they put out the fact that they felt little Dave was cooperating with the federal government against them, because there were several cases that he found himself caught up in along the way that always got dropped, or he always got just a minimal of time or probation, or he was out there fucking doing community service, picking up trash with all the other riffraff. There was definitely things that just didn't meet the eye, that just didn't seem or sit right with the club. So the club definitely got their lawyer involved, and the lawyer did a cease and desist on little Dave, and little Dave got voted out bad of the club. Now, there might have been other reasons behind it that we're not privy to, and we shall never be privy to, because guess what? Club business is club business. But what put out there publicly is our business. And one thing I'll say for sure is, you're out of there. Spaghetti-o. Now, this man fought tooth and nail, did several more interviews, Cinemills TV. He did interviews on different biker channels. He did interviews on different platforms to try to vindicate himself, to try to prove to everybody that he was an innocent man, that he did not do this shit. But one thing I can say for sure, after having that conversation again, I always thought in the back of my mind, well, you never told me, you didn't tell, you just told me, how can I clean it up? I'm just saying though, real life. You guys want to hear it from the horse's mouth? It's fucking facts. Now trip out on this, pensa la tira. I hate to rehash old stuff, but little Dave, hey, it is what it is, and it's real. Now, at the end of the day, he did ultimately go up before a judge, to which the judge said, the judge basically vindicated him. Were we all wrong? Is the question I asked. Were we wrong? Was I wrong? Were you wrong? Were all the people that believed he was telling wrong? I don't know, but the judge definitely said that he was not working, he was not a confidential informant, and he was not working with the federal government to get his club tossed up, to get his club canceled out. He wasn't, they said. And this guy smiled from here to here to here to here. He was happy ear to ear, and he definitely went on a crusade to let everybody know that he was vindicated because the judge says so. Look, watch out. They hung Omar because Sosa says so. Let me tell you something about the judge. He's not going to tell if that guy's telling. You think he's going to put that guy in danger? Hey, he cannot tell you who a confidential informant is. He cannot tell you who's 101, who's working with the feds. That is not his job to do. Of course he's going to vindicate you. Of course he's going to make you look good. That's just the way it is. They're not going to put you in danger. What they're going to do is tell you everything's crimson and clover, and it's all fine and dandy and red roses, red, red wine. But it really ain't, Holmes. It really isn't. You know, so the question I pose, people, because little Dave now is out of the way. He's now a civilian. He's out bad from the club. They're not hearing that bullshit. They don't believe the judge. They definitely don't want nothing to do with this man. This man has moved on in his life. And hey, rightfully so, he should. You know, he put in his work for so many years, and the government put in their work. The assistance might have been real. One thing I'll say for sure is this. He was vindicated by a judge. But was he vindicated by his club and by you? I don't know what to say. I know about the conversation, the tone of voice I had, and one thing I know for sure is when someone is guilty of something, they go, the stuttering is real, and his stutter game was like this fucking yay, crackling. And that's just real. Anyways, that was the rise, the fall of Little Dave and my interaction with him and the true conversation. It's up to you people to decide. Was this man innocent? Was this man slandered? Was it a political witch hunt, like he said, to get, because politics, there's politics everywhere. Street gang politics. Politics in the government, politics in prison, politics within clubs, in the motorcycle world, right? Was it politics that really got him unseated as the national president? Or was it more than that? At one point in his time, his old lady was all in saying he was a snitch, he was a rat, he did this, he did that. And we, of course, know he pillow talks. Most men do at night with their old lady in confidence. And then later on when they're getting a mamon from a 450-pound fat bitch and she finds out, she's mad, right? But then again, you also have women scorned that will say anything just to wreck a man's life, not really knowing what they're doing. Then later on they backtrack and no, he didn't do it. I'm bent on la tira. Now it's too late, fucking Brittany Griner. You got caught with weed. That's just how it is, Anyways, with that being said, later on, she definitely retracted her statements and said, oh no, he didn't do it, but it was already too fucking late. He was out bad. And forever, he'll have an asterisk next to his name, tainted. He's a tainted individual, whether he told or not. Now, from my personal perspective, because you want to hear it? You want to hear you ready? The wind's blowing? I think you told, but that's just me. Anyways, with that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose, get everything that you want coming to you. And remember, at the end of each and every day, man, we got to do what we does. Cuz now that doesn't mean going to fucking Starbucks and telling the feds everything. That means just doing you. All this could have been avoided, and this man could have been still sitting at the seat of one of the most prominent and respected motorcycle clubs in the world if he just kept his fucking mouth shut and just did him. But when you get drunk, I need an extra strategy. Let me tell you what's going to happen. Boom! Kick your ass up off the table. There's your extra strategy, puto. It is what it is. With that being said, I hope that you like and subscribe. I hope that you feel everything that I'm saying. I hope that you get up off your lazy ass and go to work today, man, because your kids are hungry. Go and do it as raza. That's what we does, because hard workers work hard. You know what it is. If you like this, hit that like and subscribe with a thumbs up. If not, thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I had to give it to you raw. No, you don't understand. We understand, little Dave. We definitely understand. Bang, bang.